Ayubowan. So today in this lesson, which is the second lesson in our reading component, we are going to have a look at two important skills that we need. So the two words are called skimming and scanning. They're very important when we are doing our reading paper. Why? Because you have a lot of text to read. Okay, and for academic students, it's about 800 words. So we should know how can we reduce the time, right? Without reading all the words, how do we find the answers? So, if you're doing general or academic IELTS, for both categories, right, this is very important for you to understand how to skim and how to scan. Because when I'm discussing the Cambridge books, I would just be telling you, okay, underline the keywords, skim and scan for the answer. So then you should know, how do I skim? How do I scan? Very important, right? Right. So let us have a look at the two words. What do these words mean? Skimming and scanning are two different strategies that we use to do our reading paper. And it helps us for speed reading. What do we mean by speed reading? It means that we can quickly read and find the answer. What is speed reading? So during your IELTS test, right, you have a limited time. You know that you are limited for how many minutes? 60 minutes. And it's impossible to read everything in those reading passages and then find the answers because they give you a lot of information, right? So you can read only by practicing these two techniques for speed reading. So you need to quickly read according to the purpose, according to your keywords, and then find the information that you need. So this is called speed reading in detail. Okay? Now skimming. Skimming means we say a quick read. Okay? Quickly reading the text to get only its general information. Okay, so we try to get the general idea, what is this text about? What kind of information would this text have, right? So to skim effectively, you only need to read a part of the material. That means you don't read word by word, right? You look at the headings, you look at the subheadings. Sometimes if there are any pictures, you would look at the pictures. You are skimming the reef, looking at all the different fish and getting the main idea of what you see. So we're saying, oh, okay, this picture is under the sea, there's the corals, you have fish, right? Different types of fish, different colors, right? You have a turtle. So different things you're able to understand, okay, this is going to be something about the sea, under the sea, life about under the sea, something related to that. I'm sure it wouldn't be about cricket, okay? So you should be able to skim read and get the general idea. මොකක් ගැනද අපිට තියෙන්නේ මේ passage එක ගැන. දැන් මේක දැක්කහම you be able to මොකද තේරුම් ගන්න මුහුද යට ජීවිතයක් ගැන තියෙන. So I'm giving a bit of Sinhalese explanation also, so that in case you're still watching it and you feel a bit uncomfortable, you're still in the second video, so it would help you settle in. Okay? Right. Moving on, how do we skim? Now that is another question. Now lots of people say, okay, skim reads, can read, but how do you actually do it? That is the biggest hurdle that most of us have. It's not only for you, right? Even I do it every 2 years, and then that becomes it is quite challenging to skim, read and scan and find the answer. But that's the best way for you to actually do the reading test, and that's the way for you to get a higher score. If not, you'll not be able to answer all 40 questions within that time frame. If you have about 2-3 years, definitely all of us can, right? So, you read the first paragraph attentively to get an idea of what will be discussed in the text. Read the first and sometimes the second sentence of each para. Some people actually read the last sentence also, just to see, okay, what is this paragraph about? After you have read the first sentences, your eyes should drop down to the end of the paragraph looking for important pieces of information, right, such as dates and names, things like that. Read the last paragraph attentively as it may contain the summary. So you look at the headings, the subheadings, and then the paragraphs, right? You don't read everything, maybe the first sentence, right, in each para and the last sentence to get an understanding. But you kind of read the first para attentively and the last para attentively, because the first one gives you the information as to what this paragraph is going to be about. And then the last paragraph is like a summary. So it gives you all the information that was discussed in the above paras. Okay. So it's important that you understand how to skim and what is actually skimming. After that, you could just look around for like important pieces of information like dates and names, right? Some people take this as scanning, looking out for particular pieces of information. Either way, if you could just, quickly skim read through, what are the dates, what are the names around in the paragraph, would be easy for you. The skimming process. So you have this whole piece of information here. Let's go through it first. Now here, I told you in my previous slide to attentively read the first and the last paragraphs. So the first one, it's giving you the headings as to what is capitalism. It has the subheadings, class division, the profit motive. So this is the first para. So we kind of attentively read it to understand what is this para going to contain, what kind of information will it contain, and what is this whole capitalism, okay? The word capitalism is now quite commonly used to describe the social system in which we now live. It is also often assumed that it has existed, if not forever, then for most of human history. Okay, so it's been there for quite a long time, this capitalism. In fact, capitalism is relatively new social system. For a brief historical account of how capitalism came into existence a couple of 100 years ago, see Marx and Engels' Communist Manifesto. But what exactly does capitalism mean? So it's giving us a bit of a history as to what capitalism is and how did it come into existence, right? But let's see what it means and then have a look at it. So read the first sentence, drop down to the end looking for key details. So we go here, first, and then right at the end just to see what this is about. So capitalism is a social system which now exists in all countries of the world. It's a social system. The working class are paid to produce goods and services which are then sold for a profit. People produce goods and services and they sell it so that they make a profit. The capitalism, the motive for producing goods and services is to sell them for a profit, not to satisfy people's needs. Okay, so we just don't give it free of charge to say, okay, everyone's in hunger, let's give free food. No. Capitalism says, yes, we produce goods and services, but we sell it. And how do we sell it? With a profit. Okay. So the capitalists calculate can be sold at a profit. Those goods may satisfy human needs, but those needs will not be met if people don't have sufficient money. So as I said before, hunger is a need. Okay, food, shelter, clothing, they are basic needs. So yes, the capitalists, they give you these things, but if you don't have money, can you purchase them? No, because they sell it. Okay, and for you to buy them, buy the goods or services to satisfy your needs, you should have money. Okay, so if you don't have money, you cannot buy those goods and services to satisfy your needs. Okay, so that is a bit of explanation to capitalism. So we understand, okay, this is all about capitalism, how the class is divided, how the working class produces the goods and the services, right? And then the profit motive, so that they are sold in return to make money and to get a profit. So if you don't have money, basically, you can't buy the goods or services to satisfy your needs in this capitalism structure. Okay, so with that skimming, I mean, we didn't spend a lot of time. I did because I was explaining. But if you were to read this at the exam, just this bit, it would probably take you about 1 minute or so. Nothing more than that. So this then gives you the mindset and the understanding, okay, this is going to be about this. So this reading passage is about this. These are the types of information, keywords that we would come across. Okay. Now that is why I said before I go here for you to read. So if you have come from the beginner level, I kept on telling you read books, read newspapers, read articles, watch news, the BBC, right? So if you had groomed yourself by doing those things, by now you should have exposed yourself to a variety of topics. So this should be fairly easy for you. Next one is scanning. Scanning means that we look for specific information. So there could be specific phrases, right, in the text. To scan effectively, you must underline the keywords while reading. So you could find those words or the similar meaning in the text. So the keyword underlining concept is very important in your IELTS test. Okay? You are skimming the reef looking for one particular type of fish. So say there's a lot of fish here, but you're looking for this one. The fish with a red tail. Okay? You see a lot of fish, but you focus on finding this particular one. Right? Let me tell you a bit in Sinhala. දැන් මෙහෙම පින්තූරයක් තිබ්බොත් අපි හොයන්නේ ඒකේ ඉන්නේ එක මාළුවෙක් විතරයි. කවුද අපි හොයන මාළුවා? මෙන්න මෙහෙම රතු පාට අගට තියෙන මාළුවෙක්. So එතනදී, right, what are we supposed to look for? The fish, right? රතු පාට වලිගය වගේ තියෙන fish තමයි අපි scan කරන්නේ. Then what are we doing? We're looking for a particular type of fish, specific type of fish. So if that's the case, now obviously we're not going to look for a particular type of fish for the IELTS paper. Harida, I want you to understand the concept, not to think, teacher told us we're going to look for a fish. එහෙම නෙවෙයි IELTS paper එකෙන් මාළුවෙක් නෙවෙයි අපි හොයන්නේ, right? I want you to understand the concept behind it. කොහොමද scanning කියන එක මොකද්ද මේ? හරි? අපි බලන්නේ particular piece of information. ඒ කියන්නේ ගොඩක් මැද එක විස්තරයකට. Specific piece of information, right? Okay. So how do we scan? You underline the key pieces of information, or we say important information, while reading the text. So they can be dates, numbers, names, right? New terms, keywords, and we underline. Can you see? Skimming was we were just looking through, okay. Scanning is you're really looking, okay, 1983, what exactly happened? Okay. Skimming, okay, something happened in 1983 when you're looking for dates. But here scanning, what exactly happened in 1983, right? When you read the question, identify the key word or words. Okay, I'm just going to say the plural one also is possible here. And then scan the text. This way, you'll find the answers more quickly. So actually for the reading paper, all you're doing is skimming, scanning, scanning, skimming. And you mix them together sometimes for most of the questions. The scanning process. You look for specific words. Okay, so let's say we have to look for social system, we scan. Where do you have social system? Here we have social system. Okay. And where do we have it anywhere else? No, that kind of thing. We're supposed to have a look at capitalist, then here it is. Profit, here it is. Say, here capitalist class, so that's not capitalist. So we're looking for specific words, and then we would obviously underline or circle it and then read that specific sentence. So scanning is very important, just like skimming. Practice question 1. First of all, let's practice skimming. When reading a text for the first time, you should skim over it to grasp. Grasp means to gain the main idea. In this example, read the highlighted text and quickly look over the rest of the text. You have about 1 to 2 minutes. Okay. So, are electric cars really eco-friendly? What do they tell us for the red part? Read the highlighted text. Because why? That's the first bit. And then what are we supposed to do in the remaining bit? We just quickly skim read, and then we have this bit. Okay. So, as I told you, the first para, read it to understand what it means, right? So you have to read that entire paragraph in an attentive manner. Electric car drivers are saving the planet, right? Their vehicles produce none of the pollutants that dinosaur-burning, fossil fuel-powered machines do. That is the standard view. And governments around the world provide incentives to encourage the uptake of this new technology. So what is it talking about? How good electric cars are and comparatively to the fossil fuel powered machines. That is why a Tesla owner got a rude shock when he went to import his vehicle into Singapore, the first person to do so. So this is about an example of how a Tesla owner, a Tesla owner's experience was, right? So it talks about this example. Instead of an expected rebate of around $15,000 US, he received a fine of the same amount for being a gross polluter. Shocking, right? The Singapore authorities calculate the carbon cost of generating the electricity that will be used to charge the car. So now here, what was the ultimate outcome and then how the authorities calculated this, right? The authorities in Singapore apparently found the Tesla in question consumes 444 watt-hours of electricity per kilometer in tests, right? So here it is. Numbers 444 444 watt-hours per kilometer does seem high. Then finally, but what about the bigger picture? Should we factoring in the emissions of power stations when working out how green an electric car is? The logical answer is yes. Emissions shifted elsewhere are still emissions. The CO2 impacts the global atmosphere where it is released. Okay, so the conclusion is yes, we should get the bigger picture, not just thinking about bringing in electric cars, but how do we charge it? Do we need other power sources to generate this electricity? Then of course, we have to think about the big picture. So, now after you've skimmed the text, intro para, we have done it completely. Can you see? Complete red. Next, only the topic sentence, which is the very first sentence in a paragraph. We call it the topic sentence, right? So that gives us an intro as to what that paragraph is going to be about. Then we had a look at the first as well as a number, right? So 444. Then the last para, which is the conclusion, it gives us a summary as to what was there in the reading passages. So when you do that, you get the general idea. One man imported an electric car to Singapore and was fined for that because the car was considered as a polluter. It turned out that the electric cars also can be dangerous. Why? Because the electric car energy used to charge them is produced at power stations, which again emits the pollutants. So they charged him. What is the main aim of the text? Okay, to discourage people from visiting Singapore? Really? Not really, no? To prove that electric cars are less eco-friendly than fossil fuel power machines? Let's see the third one. To show that we need to count the emissions of power stations to see how green an electric car is, right? So this question can be easily answered if you had skim-read the text here, right? So you are only able to understand the main idea of the text, and obviously the correct answer is C. Because it never discouraged people visiting Singapore, never spoke about it. To prove, definitely not. I was less eco-friendly, never did so. It said what? It was looking at the cost and telling people we need to see the bigger picture. Not just getting in an electric car, but how is it cost effective? Is it so or not, right? So it wasn't looking at being less eco-friendly, no, but we need to count the emissions of the power stations, yes, so definitely C. But what about the bigger picture? Should we be factoring in emissions of power stations when working out how green an electric car is? So the logical answer here is yes, right? But it also tells you what the overall understanding is. So if you skim read, you can see how easy it is for you to find most of the answers like this. When the owner of the electric car went to Singapore, he received a rebate of around US dollars 10,800, a fine around 15,000. Now, and this question, unlike the previous one, requires you specific details about it. So, to do this one, can you just skim read? No. You should scan for these two things. Don't just read the text again. Watch out. See for these two words and then you have to answer it. Okay? So, let's go and see. We come here. Where can we see these two figures? Here. Right. So, instead of an expected rebate around 15,000, what do you mean by rebate? It means like, in Sinhala, like vattama, right? So, it means that you kind of reduce something, right? So, instead, he expected it to be 15,000. What was it actually? It was 10,800 US dollars. Okay? So, he received a fine. So, that was his fine for bringing down the car. Okay, the same amount of being a gross polluter. So the gross amount that he was polluting, that was the same amount, 10,800. Okay, so going back to our question, now we looked for specific pieces of information. The rebate was around, a rebate of around 10,800, no. A fine, yes, it was a fine. It wasn't a discount, okay, it wasn't a vattama. The 10,800 was a fine. Even though he expected a rebate, he thought, I got a discount of about $15,000. Did he get it? No. What actually happened? He was charged 10,800 as a fine, okay? As the same amount that would what? B as a, gross polluter, for being a gross polluter. So, B seems an okay answer. This one, no. A fine around 15,000, no. They thought that they would get a discount for 15,000, but no, that wasn't the fine. So, the sentence contains keywords in the third para instead of an expected rebate of $15,000, right? He received a fine. This should be US dollars, right? He received a fine of the same amount. So, the correct answer is definitely B. මේක තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ හරියට වට්ටමක් දෙන්න. එයා හිතුවේ එයාට වට්ටමක් හම්බෙයි කියලා 15,000ක ඩොලර්ස්. ඇත්තට මේක උනාද නැහැ. එයා හිතුවේ හම්බෙයි කියලා නට එහෙමුනේ නැහැ. එයාට ඩොලර් 18,800ක දඩයක් දැම්මා. මොකද ඒක පොලියුටර් එකක් හැටියට ඒගොල්ලෝ දැක්ක හින්දා. Right? So that's the answer. මේක තේරුම් ගන්න, you should be able to find specific information, and that is called scanning. To prove that electric car was a gross polluter, the authorities in Singapore calculated the watt of generating the electricity to charge the car. Now, after you skimmed read the article, right, you should know that the Singapore authorities and charging the car were mentioned somewhere in the middle of the text. So, moreover, you kind of had a clue. You remember. The answer should be after the answer to question number 3, right? So, we go and see, where do we find these things? So, this was here. Now, how do they calculate it? The Singapore authorities calculated the carbon cost of generating the electricity that will be used to charge the car, right? Now, what are we looking at? We are also looking at authorities in Singapore, electricity to charge the car. So, calculated the watt. Now, when we read that sentence, right, if you scan for these keywords, then the Singapore authorities calculated the carbon cost of generating the electricity. So, if you go here, right, you can see, both are there. So, what did they calculate? The carbon cost. So, that is our answer. What did they calculate? They calculated the carbon cost. So, these are short gap fills. Okay. Not every question will be so easy, right? Obviously, I've isolated it so that it's easy for you to understand how to practice these skills. දැන් මෙච්චර teach කරපු එක හරිම ලේසි. එහෙනම් මම කරලා තියෙන්නේ so that you can understand this skill. But actually with the time, right, and the pressure, skimming and scanning is something you have to practice throughout before you go for the IELTS test. Okay? Practice question 2. Read the questions and follow the instructions. Sundance by Teresa Wilson. So here it is, right? Now, what are you supposed to do, right? Skim the text below, read it quickly, don't use a dictionary, then answer the questions. How did Kerry feel about the book? So, how do you know what she felt about it? Well, you've got to read the intro, right? And then there's only this bit. So, you might want to read the introductory a little attentively, okay? So, I'd like you to do it on your own. Take about 2 minutes, right? To do it on your own, and then let's see what the answer is. Go up and down, right? That means this side to this side, and then read it through and find the answer. You have about 2 minutes to do so. Right, so I hope you would have found the answer. So what's the first question? Skim the text below, read it quickly, and you shouldn't have used the dictionary. How did Kerry feel about the book, right? The next question. Scan the text below for the answers to the questions. Try to use the keywords in the questions to help you look for the specific information. Which age group will like this book? Age group like. Who is Teresa Wilson? Who? What does mediocre mean in the last line? So you should know what it means, right? Or you should be able to understand mediocre. Mediocre. Where is mediocre? Here, mediocre. Right? But she lacks anything original. There is no flair. It just uses the same sort of language as you can see in any other mediocre novels. Okay? So what does it really mean? Who is Teresa Wilson? So Teresa Wilson. We don't see it here. No. So we go to the next one, Teresa Wilson. I'm not saying Teresa Wilson is a bad writer. So she's probably a writer. Okay? Next question, which age group will like this book? Age. The character thought and acted like a 32-year-old, but not which age group likes the book. I really don't know why this book is popular, right? Seems like it's there. So it says, I was also disappointed that although this book is meant to be about kids at high school, the writer seems to have no recollection at all about what's it like to be 17. So it was more like towards the age group of 17. Okay, so that's your scanning. Let's have a look at question number 1. Skimming. Carrie feels negative towards the books. How do we know that? If you had read the first para, it would have given you those words. I really don't know why this book is so popular. I mean, I suppose it is going to appeal to younger girls who want danger and romance, but I found this book really tedious. For a start, the characters were really unconvincing. The author went out of her way to add lots of details about the characters, but I found these details were really pointless. Okay? There were just worthless bits of information. I was also disappointed that she was going on, seems to have no recollection. Okay? And it just wasn't believable. So she had a very negative attitude towards unhappy, okay? Not a very good impression, a negative attitude towards the book. They were supposed to appeal young girls, right? It was supposed to appeal. So it says here, now, which age group? So young girls, right? And here, remember, we scan 17. So you can see, if you didn't read a word and you just thought it was 17, how wrong it's going to be. Why is it wrong? Now comes the point here. Which age group we like? Now, when we did this 17, I did it by purpose for you to understand. Did I scan all my keywords? I just looked for an age. What should I be doing? Looking for an age group as well as the word appeal. So here, appeal means to like, to kind of, get their likings. Age group is not in numbers but in words. So you should remember, not everything comes in numbers. It could be in words as well. So young girls, it appeals to them, right? And then it doesn't say really who Teresa is, but it says Teresa Wilson is not a bad writer. So Teresa Wilson is a writer, or you can say author of the book. So what is this word? Okay, it means average, nothing special. It's just like all the other books. It uses the same sort of language as you see in many other novels. So it means nothing different, nothing special. There you go. Right. Practice question 3. Skim read the Potham Village School Prospectus and answer the following questions. So here you have the prospectus. Go through it. Okay. And then I'd like you to take a few minutes and answer these questions. There you go. Okay. So pause the video here. Go back to the start of this specific reading para. Okay. And then find the answers. I'll give you about, say, 2 to 3 minutes to quickly skim read through and find the answers. Alright, so I hope you would have finished the questions by now. Now let's have a look at the answers, right? So is the prospectus aimed at the children or the parents, right? Now if you go to the very first one here, if your child is absent from school, you should telephone the school office. So if you had skim-read the first para properly, you should have understood that it was for the parents, right? So the prospectus is aimed at the parents. In the first one, it says your child. Would you use the prospectus to find directions to the school? Well, really, it doesn't really have a subheading or any details about the directions. So I would say no, really no heading. To find out about what time the school opens, no, there was no heading or no specific timing. So I would say no. To find out about the school uniform, yes. Why? Because there was a subheading saying school uniform. And it was just here. There you go. School uniform. And it spoke about the boys and the girls and the footwear and the accessories, and then how it operates a budget shop to purchase the second-hand clothing, right? So that was all okay. So I would say yes, under the school uniform heading. They did have one. Next one, as well as illness, which one does the absence section deal with, right? So if you go to the first bit, you have absence in caps lock, all letters capital, and then you have the school uniform, everything in capital. But you have holidays and illness in terms of simple letters, right? So you know this is a heading, uniform is heading. So under absence, you have two subheadings, illness and holidays. So looking at our question, what does it ask us? It's asking us, as well as illness, what is the other one? It deals with holidays. Does the prospectus give details of the curriculum? No, there wasn't any information about the curriculum, so no. You can find school clubs from the prospectus. Yes, under the extracurricular activities, it does talk about the school clubs here. Wide range of clubs for children to attend, right? So you may attend football, ballet, swimming, all of those things. So the following clubs are there: archery, short tennis, French and homework. Those are the clubs, right? So there you go. Yes, we do have details about the clubs. So it is true, right? The prospectus tell parents about the issues of bullying. No, I didn't find any information about bullying, right? So therefore, it is false. Scanning is the technique, but really, if you had skim-read through the headings and the subheadings, you would have realized that. All right, so moving on to the next question. Does the prospectus give parents information about the school examinations? I mean, it doesn't give details in details, but it does tell us that in page 9, you could read about the examinations, or you could find details about examinations, right? So it was here. See page 9 regarding examinations. So it's not really here, but you could read through page 9. So yes, it does have it, okay? Next one. Does the prospectus tell parents how to purchase second-hand? Yes. It tells you that you can go to the budget shop and it's there under the school uniform heading. Does the prospectus tell you about school lunches? No, it doesn't really give us information. No headings, subheadings or any info. True or false? It gives us the telephone number. It tells us that you could call, but what number should you call? We don't know, right? So therefore, it is false. All right. Question number 4. Scan through the recipe and write the answers. So scan, okay? We've got Matthew, and we've got 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 4 to 6. We've got chicken, vegetable oil, half an onion or 2 shallots, 2 cloves, 1 jar of tikka masala, 100 plain yogurt, and then to garnish, right? And then we've got the instructions or the method. Fry the onion, add the sauce, add the yogurt, serve the chicken with rice. Okay. Question number 1. Whose recipe is this? So, whose? How many cloves of garlic? What comes in a jar? How long should you simmer the sauce? What should you serve the chicken with? Whose recipe? Matthew Martin. Okay. So we can write. Make sure that you check for this proper spelling, okay? How many cloves of garlic? It was 2 cloves, okay? So just the number is enough to. What comes in a jar? What comes in a jar? Tikka masala sauce, okay? How long should you simmer the sauce? Simmer. How long? 5 minutes. What should you serve the chicken with? So, serve chicken with what? Rice. With what? With rice. I'm not going to say with rice because there's already with here. So, what do I serve it with? Rice. And here you go. Instead, you want to double check. These are the answers. Right. So, I think with that now, you have a good understanding of how to skim and how to scan, right? And how you practice this skill. So, we've had a look at a good lesson. We've had a look at what is skimming, what is scanning. I've put down detailed answers for you, right? The last one I did it with you and then finally I put down the answers so you could have a look at it. But I've done everything with you. So this should give you a good understanding as to what is skimming, what is scanning, how do you skim, read, how do you scan. Very important for your IELTS reading test. So with that, we come to the end of this lesson, which was all about skimming and scanning techniques.